Okay, welcome to the New York State Senate District 2 candidate debate. Today is October 12th, 2020. I'm Lisa Scott, the president of the League of Women Voters of Suffolk County, and I'll be doing the moderating. Linda Devon Sheehan, a board member of the League of Women Voters of Brookhaven, will be the timekeeper tonight. This debate is being pre-recorded. We will be posting the debate on YouTube and sharing the links with candidates, with media, and with the public and our membership. This is what happened before. Okay. The League of Women Voters is nonpartisan. We do not support or oppose candidates or parties. The League is, by definition, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Our website is on the slide. The 2020 Directory of Public Officials is an annual publication that we're responsible for, and Vote 411 is a nonpartisan source of voter information for the whole country. Our candidates will each be allowed 2 minutes for opening and closing statements. Candidates will be asked the same question on a rotating basis. Each will be allowed 2 minutes to respond to the question and permitted up to 1 minute as a rebuttal or additional answer. Education and civility are our debate goals. Voters should learn about why each candidate deserves support, so personal attacks are discouraged. Questions were prepared in advance to permit a range of relevant issues to be discussed, and the moderator is the final arbiter of any disagreement. This debate is recorded on a closed Zoom, but it will be recorded in its entirety and available on YouTube on Tuesday, October 13th. Any rebroadcast of the debate must be done in its entirety so that the debate is not manipulated in any way to create false or misleading impressions of any candidate. Both candidates have agreed in writing to the debate format and guidelines. And again, gentlemen, welcome, Mario Mattera and Michael Siderakis.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So the important part as we prepare for this momentous occasion, who goes first? Right hand or left hand?
I'll go first.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Choose my right hand or left hand.
Oh,
Your right hand.
Say again.
Right hand.
Right
Now.
hand. Okay, right hand, second. So Mike, you start with your opening statement.
Thank you, Lisa, Linda. I want to thank also League of Women Voters for hosting this debate. My name is Mike Siderakis, and I'm running for New York State Senate District 2. I'm 52 years old. I live in Wisconsin with my wife, Sandra, and my 3 children, my 2 boys, John and George, and my daughter, Samantha. We've lived in Wisconsin, my wife and I, since we purchased our home and got married in 1995. This is our starter home, and we love this neighborhood and haven't seen a need to move from where we are now. I've dedicated my life to public service. I've served for nearly 3 decades as a New York State trooper in law enforcement. I've served, protected, and defended the people while preserving the rights and dignity of all. And I want to continue my public service to the constituents of District 2. I want to ensure that our education system is protected, our health care system is protected, our environment is protected, and our communities are protected and stay safe. I entered this race because I truly enjoyed my time as a public servant. I've also spent 2 years in Albany as a legislative director for the New York State Troopers PBA, and I want to continue my service.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mattera, 2 minutes.
Are we ready? Great. I just want to thank the League of Women for this debate, for hosting this, Lisa and Linda. I thank you very, very much for your time. I know your time is very important. My name is Mattera. I'm 57 years old. I'm a 55-year resident of a great town of Smithtown, where I'm married to my beautiful wife, Terry, for 26 years. I have 2 daughters. I have Jessica, 22, that goes to Stony Brook University, and Jamie, 18. She's a senior at Smithtown East High School, and they're both captains. They're both captains with the Smithtown East Whisperettes, which I am a Whisperette dad, which I'm so proud of that. 23-year champions. So going down to Florida and watching them kick and win against the whole country is very, very important to me, because without family, we have nothing. I am the business agent with Plumbers Local 200. I've been a 40-year member, 25 years as an officer, over 18 years as the business agent, and its elected position also. I am a trustee for a $250 million fund with Plumbers Local 200. I'm very proud of it. I represent over 1,300 members and their families here in Nassau and Suffolk County. One thing, I sit on a lot of boards, which I'm very, very proud of. I am very proud and privileged to be on the Suffolk County Water Authority Board, which everybody knows it's 1 million residents that we cover, and I am very proud to make sure that our precious water supply is protected, because we are made of water, and it's very, very important that we are there as a board to protect our customers and the residents of Suffolk County every day. I sit on the Suffolk County, Smithtown Advisory Board with the town of Smithtown, with Ed Wareheim and all council people, to make sure that any new projects come out, that we go and we look at them, we go to the residents, and we make sure that it's a project that's suitable for the town of Smithtown. I also sit on the St. James Civic, which I worked very, very hard with. Okay. Lake Avenue, what's going on right now, Lake Avenue. Just quick, Suffolk County, I sit on a lot of boards. Suffolk County Consumers Affair Board. I sit on the Helmets to Heart.
Thank you. Your time's up.
Thank you.
All right. Also, again, you most certainly, both of you, if you're in the middle of a sentence or a short thought, finish it, but we would appreciate then stopping. Otherwise, we'll go way too long. So the first question that the League has prepared would start with, actually with you, Mr. Mattera, okay? And again, you have 2 minutes, then Mr. Siderakis, sorry about that. Mr. Siderakis would also respond to the same question. And then if you wish, Mr. Mattera, you can have up to a minute if there's something you'd like to add or do a rebuttal in some way. And Mr. Siderakis, the same thing for you, 1 minute. And then the subsequent question starts with Mr. Siderakis, so we'll keep track of that. So Mr. Mattera, if elected, what is the most important issue that you would address immediately that would benefit your constituents?
Okay, I'm telling you, I'm very, very concerned, especially what's happening to our law enforcement. I'm very proud that I'm endorsed by all law enforcement. And one thing that's happening with the funding, with the bail reform, and with the 50A situation, what's happening to our police officers, you know what? We need law and order. We need to make sure we give the tools back to our police officers that they need. Right now, we have 50 miles away that is in such disarray and dire straits that we need to make sure that we have the police officers that, especially new cadets that are coming up, that are going to want to be police officers. Right now, you have so many of the police officers retiring right now because they're frightened of their job if they do something wrong. Our New York State uniform officers are educated. They know what they're doing. They know how to do their job. But right now, they are being punished for something that happened in another state. I want to make sure that our law and order is going to be there. I'm very, very concerned about that. Now, you only said one thing I could talk about. I can't talk about other things. You want to say what is the most important? And that is so important to me that, in other words, that we repeal, not reform, we repeal and get the union leaders to sit at the table to make sure that we come up with good laws that protect everybody and work with everybody. But to sit there and have laws that are passed with 1 week, legislation passed that in 1 week, and nobody got to sit at the table, especially our talented law enforcement agencies, is unacceptable. We need to move forward with this, and that is very, very important to me. That is one thing I want to make sure that our police officers receive the tools back that they had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis, 2 minutes, same question?
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. If you would have asked me that question 6 or 7 months ago, I would have given you probably 4 or 5 different answers. I think the most important thing right now to all of us is our healthcare. COVID-19 has affected every single one of us. It has affected our employment, has affected our health. Many of us have lost loved ones due to COVID-19. And we have to make sure that government is there to assist small businesses that some may not be able to reopen, even once they're allowed to at full capacity. So we have to make sure that government is there, make sure our healthcare system remains strong, people have access to healthcare, especially during a pandemic. We need people who are sick to go get treatment and be monitored and try to maintain the spread of COVID-19 from getting out of hand. Now, these businesses that have closed, like I said, many of them will not be reopening. So we have to make sure that we provide the financing for these small businesses to reopen and come back stronger than they were before. We need to offer at the state level. Right now, we have issues on the federal level with getting funding and monies from the federal government. We have to ensure that we provide either low interest or no interest loans to small businesses and help them hire back the workforce that we had prior to COVID-19. We had a very low unemployment rate, and we need people to get back to work and start paying for their family and for their bills.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mattera, did you want to add anything to what you said on that question? You don't have to, both of you, in terms of rebuttal. This is if you choose to.
Yeah, my statement, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Siderakis?
I could rebut to Mario's statement.
No,
Yeah,
we can't.
if that,
I didn't know I could rebut to Mike.
all right, so
Go ahead, Mario.
let's rewind.
Oh, okay.
Wait. Let's rewind. Your 1 minute, you can rebut a statement that someone else made,
Okay.
but it
okay.
should be in the context of what we're
That's fine.
talking in, not to
Yeah.
bring in a completely new outside thing. Okay?
So
if you like,
to Mike's comment, yes, we need to make sure that we are there for our businesses. One thing with COVID, I feel that we're educated. I feel that the governor did do a good job, especially with the masks, social distancing, with people being cleanliness. I really feel people are educated a lot, especially what's happening right now, that there's a task force that's going around and checking businesses to make sure that there's social distancing. And there's people that have gotten in trouble for this. So you know what? Everybody needs to be educated. I really feel the numbers are down. I'm nervous. Yes, I am nervous about what's going to be happening coming up, but our businesses need to open up. Very, very important that we work with restaurants and businesses and make sure that these drop shipping companies are going to pay their fair share in taxes. Because I really don't feel like with Amazon is right now, I feel they're making a good profit, but this drop shipping is hurting all of our mom and pop, our brick and mortar stores. So I will work very, very hard to make sure businesses will get a chance to reopen.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis?
Sure. I just wanted to also add, COVID-19 has also shown us that there are many inequities within our society, in our healthcare system, in our public safety, in our education system. So what Mario mentioned about, the bail reform, I believe bail reform was an absolute necessity. We had inequalities in the justice system. Somebody arrested for DWI who didn't have the $500 to post. Somebody who does have the money can go home, while somebody else has to stay in jail for the exact same crime. So I do believe reform was needed. I believe the way the reform was handled was absolutely wrong.
Yes.
It was actually put in the budget, and it was voted not as a standalone bill, but as part of the budget. So you either voted up or down on the budget, and that's how the law was passed. We needed more involvement from law enforcement. We needed more involvement from the criminal justice system. They had a lot of issues once the law was enacted in January with the discovery law, where district attorneys had to, within 15 days, release all information to the defense attorney, where previously they didn't have to release that information.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And I do want to compliment you both, because what's important, and again, aligned with the education goal of this debate, is because people don't understand lots of times what the state Senate is and what is something that the state does versus local government or the federal government. And you both did make references to aspects of that. And I just want to encourage you to keep that in mind as we move through the questions. Again, you're running for a state government position.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Siderakis, you get the first shot at question 2. And if any of you at any time need me to repeat the question, that's fine. It doesn't count in your minutes. Question 2 is: moonlighting by top legislative leaders and top members of the executive branch has triggered indictments by federal prosecutors. Would you support prohibiting outside income for members of the legislature in excess of 15% of gross annual salary?
All right, thank you, Lisa, for that question. My answer straight is absolutely. I'm a retired New York State trooper. I will have no other income other than my pension, which I will have to not collect while I'm serving as a New York State senator. I believe our senators should be full-time positions. I've worked, like I said, as a legislative director up in Albany. I was there for 2 legislative sessions from 2017 and 2019. And I see how difficult the job is of a legislator up in Albany. It's truly a full-time position. There is no January through June work period. It requires your full attention. And I think we should limit outside income to prevent any type of conflict of interest that may come up either voting on a bill or proposing legislation. So I absolutely agree that outside income should be limited and shouldn't come from possible conflicts of interest. So.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mattera, same question.
Yes, I just feel that with this position, that you do have a certain percentage that you can have something else. Because I really don't think you could be the money that is that your income. I really just feel that you can. Yes, it's going to be a big position, but I feel that there should be another income that you could have another income with this position.
Okay. Mr. Siderakis, you want to rebut or add anything?
Sure. This position is one of public service. People don't run for this office for the money. That's not why I became a public servant or a state trooper. Currently, I believe it's 179,000 is going to be the top income for state senators. So
No.
as a full-time position, I think it's much more than the average throughout New York State. And I think, you know, if you're going to run for this position, that's what your job is, to represent the people. And if you don't want to represent the people, you could continue as many other jobs as you want.
And I'm going to rebuttal to that. I sit on a lot of boards, and I know what I could do with multitasking personally. And I'm not going to sit there and say that I will be adjusted with when I become senator. But all I could say to you is I really feel, and that's not a correct number, Mike, by the way, it's very expensive here to live on Long Island. But in the case of doing your job, you do it well. And I really feel that you could have a certain percentage of another job.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Mattera,
Yes.
question number 3. Do you support an independent redistricting process that takes legislators out of the process of drawing the district lines and allows citizen input and transparency and accountability in the map-making process?
Wow, that's a great question. Wow, I like you. I like that.
That's a league issue.
It's just like with the IDAs. I feel that the IDA should be separate people that are voted in for these positions. There's some IDAs right now that you have the supervisor and the council people are the IDA on the IDA board. Do I feel that? Yes. I'd like to see if there is a board that would be elected, the right people to help with that redistrict, the district. I feel that it would be something that would be, I would listen to that. Yes, I would.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis.
Well, Lisa, like you said, it's a fantastic question. And I believe we already have elected people put in office to make that decision, and that's our legislators. The Senate and Assembly are elected by the people to represent the people, and they're in Albany. The Constitution was changed recently where to make the process a lot more fair, that you need a 50% majority if both houses are split parties. So if you have a Republican Senate and a Democratic Assembly, you need a 50% vote to pass any redistricting. If you have a supermajority, which is a possibility in the Senate, and you already have it in the Assembly, you would need 60% vote to approve any redistricting plan. So I believe the current process was made a lot more fairer once the system was changed and the amendment to the Constitution was enacted. So yeah, I believe we do have our elected officials there. You know, having an independent board, this is a board comprised of electeds from around the state. So I think the current process is a fair process.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm going
yeah.
to, can I rebuttal to that?
Sure.
Again, I just feel that you having a separate independent board, it's something that, again, that I would like to look into, because for some, when you look at this, you'll see that elected officials that have a super majority with certain things will take advantage of, I feel, of redistricting the area to help their needs with things. And I think that if getting an independent board, you would have the people that would sit down and discuss it. So I really would like to I would look into that very closely.
Okay. Mr. Siderakis, any further comment?
No, I
Okay.
think I explained myself.
Okay. I have to say to the viewing public, take a look at the outlines of Senate District 2, which does not, I believe, reflect the new version. That'll come in after the census is finally completed and analyzed in a year or so. But it's quite shocking with its tentacles going out in different directions. So it's a good research project for our voters. So question number 4, Mr. Siderakis. Where do you stand on current efforts to address racism in healthcare, housing, education, and policing policies? What are your proposals to address or combat racism at this time for Long Island? And because this topic is important in the news a lot, and I think is something that's going to continue, why don't we allow you a little bit longer with your answer? And Linda, if you don't mind, let's, if the candidates want to go to 3 minutes, that's fine, because it does have components to this question. So go ahead.
All right, so you want to go, I mean, it's a pretty broad question. It's not just geared to one area. So
right, which is why.
In general?
You can start with generally. You may want to give an example or two of that, but I don't want to cut you off at 2 minutes if you want to go a little bit for longer than that.
Okay. You know, I'm one of those who, during my career as a New York State trooper, I have a Hispanic background. My mother is Puerto Rican, and my father is Greek, came from Greece here. So I do have a mixed background. I have experienced racism within the New York State Police, and it does exist. It's not often, but we definitely need to monitor, especially depending whether it's healthcare, law enforcement, education. I mean, there are ways to monitor this. Brad Hoylman recently had legislation that passed where vehicle and traffic stops or all interactions with the public were monitored to see who was stopped based on ethnicity. So you would have to record the ethnicity, age, sex of the person that you had interaction with. So there are ways to monitor and make sure that people within any type, whether it's healthcare industry, education, you know, or law enforcement, that they are doing their job, not taking race into account. So, you know, I believe we can do that through legislation and monitoring. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure we sit down with the communities and ask what experiences people have had, whether it's healthcare, policing, education, and try to come up with specific solutions for those instances where it does occur. So I think government should take a more proactive role in ensuring that our system is fair for everyone. Our education system, obviously, you have some districts where taxes are higher and are able to spend more per student, where you have other districts that get just the funding from the state and aren't able to spend the extra money on their students. I think all our students deserve fair and equal education. My children have had a fantastic education here in Smithtown. My daughter is currently attending Hunter graduate school. And I think every child in New York State, whether it's Long Island, whether it's Suffolk County, Nassau County, Buffalo, Albany, we all deserve an equal shot and an equal opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mattera?
Yes, education is key. You know, being the business agent with Plumbers Local 200 with 1,300 members, I organize the unorganized. And you know what? All different, you know, with the Latinos, with the Black community, anybody that walks through our door, you know, our Helmets to Hard Hat program. We, you know, I'm very, very proud that I'm one of the board members with that. And we have zero tolerance for anything with racism. Anybody with our local, we hear anything, I'm a business agent, I go on the job site. If there's any kind of problems with that, we have, again, zero tolerance with that. But education is key, especially with our children. You know, it's like my daughters, you know, you sit down and we care about people. You know, when I was growing up, especially growing up in Smithtown, you know, if anybody was being picked on, with bullying, this and that. I was the first type of person that went and made sure things stopped and stopped right away. And I've done that as a business agent with Plumbers Local 200. So you know what? Again, there should be policies. We need to educate. You know, when 9/11 hit, there's a saying with 9/12. Everybody wants to say, let's go back to 9/12, because you know what? We had solidarity. Everybody got together. It was a shame. Something that was unprecedented would happen to us in 9/11, and 9/12 comes, and how everybody got together. I would love to see, of course, not a 9/11, but that again, how we could get everybody together. We're all very upset what happened to George Floyd. I wish I was there, because that police officer, I would have been personally knocking him off of George Floyd. But you know, again, our New York State uniformed officers should not be punished with something that happened to the state. And then with, you know, protesting. I have no problem with protesting. I've been there protesting. Everybody has the right, their First Amendment right to speak their minds. And you know what? What's happening right now, we need people to get together. We need to educate. We need to make sure as elected officials that we are there for our residents to educate our young, our middle-aged, and our seniors, that in other words, how important it is that we stand together. So I am for putting any kind of policy together to make sure that there's change to help our communities and groups, different ethnic groups, to get together and make sure that we're there for all of our families. And I will always be there for our families.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that we can't just let it to society to make sure that everybody does what they're supposed to do. I think, like I said, government should take a more proactive role. There are things we can do. I was in law enforcement for almost 3 decades, and our training has evolved over those nearly 30 years. We do a lot of sensitivity training, and we make our troopers aware of different people's cultures, lifestyles. So when somebody is put in a situation, they're not panicked or scared. They understand the culture and the people they're dealing with. And also, like I said, with monitoring, whether it comes to healthcare, education, there are ways to ensure statistically that people are treated equally, and if not, take corrective action to ensure that people are treated equally.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mattera, anything else?
Yeah, again, just speaking about with Plumbers Local 200, we have a code of excellence, especially we have a 5-year program with our apprentices. And again, there's zero tolerance for that. And again, educating is key. It's just like you at home with your children. You educate. And one thing with my children, we sit at the table. We actually have dinner every night. We sit there, we talk. And that's the main thing, is to make sure we educate our children, then in other words, for our future. And again, we need to do whatever we have to do to put any kind of policy forward for a zero tolerance with this situation.
Okay, thank you. And the next question goes to you, Mr. Mattera. What is your position on the New York Health Act, legislation introduced in the Senate and the Assembly, which states it will provide comprehensive, universal health coverage for every New Yorker?
You know, healthcare is a touchy situation with everything. With our local union, we are self-insured, and then we do have COBRA for healthcare to make sure that all of our members do have healthcare for them and their families. To provide any kind of healthcare, I will do whatever I have to do to sit down with these healthcare providers and to make sure that we're going to have the proper healthcare, and everybody is going to have healthcare, because we cannot have our constituents in our area without healthcare. Making sure that the monies are going to be there for our healthcare, for our future. So I am, somebody that sits there, with the federal government, with Obamacare. I had people that came to us they had the Obamacare that works in some ways, but I want to make sure that people have a good healthcare program for their futures and their families.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis?
Well, to start off, I believe healthcare is a human right, not something that you only get because you got a government job or your employer. It shouldn't be employer-based. It should be available. Government should ensure that there are affordable healthcare plans, whether it includes a lower priced Medicare buy-in where certain people can buy into Medicare at a lower reduced price so people are covered. As far as the New York Health Act, the way it's currently written, I've read through the New York Health Act. There are a lot of unanswered questions with the New York Health Act. The first is the cost. You can ask 10 people and you'll get 10 different opinions on what the cost is going to be to the taxpayers. And a lot of it isn't going to be known until it's implemented and is there for 3 or 4 or 5 years. It's going to be a slow rollout of services. So we're not going to know the total cost to the taxpayers. There's also a residency where if you're a New York resident, you're entitled to health care in New York State. My concern, if only one state has it, like New York, it could become a magnet where people who are ill come to New York for healthcare services, either, I believe it's a 30-day residency. You need to be here for 30 days to be a resident. You know, if we have people, we're going to have people from across the country or the world coming here, staying here for 30 days, and our taxpayers, our New York residents would have to fund the cost. I think it should be, if we're going to do a universal plan, looked at, you know, from the federal government, where all states, you know, are equal. There's a level playing field there when it comes to healthcare. But there's also issues, I'll go during my minute.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Mattera, anything to add?
Yes, again, I really feel, especially what's happening with our budget problem, that this deficit that we have, we really need to get the federal government to help out with this healthcare situation a lot more. And one thing, when I am the senator, I will make sure that I'll be working with the federal government to make sure that we get the funding that we deserve.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis.
And I also wanted to add, you know, there are many unions. Being a member of a union for almost my entire lifetime, my adult life, there have been many contracts where we have given up certain things to keep our healthcare costs low and keep people insured. So there were many trade-offs that were made, and people have, you know, given up raises and money to get that. So I really understand the dilemma where you have union members that, for example, with our union, we have sick leave time that people can save, and at the end of their career, they can trade it in for service credits towards their health care once they retire. You know, what happens with that money where people have saved sick leave days and now have them to cash in? Do they just lose it? I mean, it was a contractual agreement. So we have to make sure we honor a lot of the contractual agreements that are out there. But I do believe we have to make healthcare affordable and universally as possible.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Siderakis, the next one is yours. COVID-19 has greatly impacted New York State finances negatively. Would you be in favor of taxing people making over $400,000 a year to help at this time with so many people out of work?
Another very important question. COVID-19 has reduced revenue for every single locality, from village, town, county, state government, and federal government as well. So we've seen a dramatic drop in revenue. I think we need to look at very creative ways of raising revenue. I know there's currently some legislation in the Assembly with sports gambling. I know they were considering voting on it. We have neighboring states that allow it, and you know, the states do generate revenue from it. So that's one source that we can look at. There's other people have been talking about the legalization of marijuana and raising revenue from that to help close the budget. But that has a host of issues as well. You have to make sure if you ever do legalize marijuana that it's done correctly, that you look at funding police agencies, healthcare initiatives to ensure people who are underage don't have access to it, and if people do have issues, they're able to get help, like alcohol. And as far as taxing the wealthy, I think if it's absolutely necessary, I'm never a fan of taxes, because it usually seems to trickle down to the middle class. Once you start, you know, one group, then it kind of trickles down to the middle class of raising taxes. But if there was a tax raise just to get us through this crisis, as long as it had possibly a 5-year, a sunset provision, where at the end of 5 years, the legislature would take a second look at it and they would have to vote it again into law to continue it. But, you know, I do think people who have made a lot of money during this crisis and can help out more should do so.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mattera.
Well, first of all, I will never be for legalizing marijuana. That is a total disaster to our whole society. So that's totally a negative. You can hear me right now as senator. I will be up there fighting to make sure that never happens. Just to give a heads up, you know, right now we have 30% of our monies that we send to the federal government that we do not receive. Again, we need to make sure that we receive the money that we send, especially the money that gets sent up to Albany, that Long Island needs to make sure we receive also. You know, big companies like Amazon, I mentioned this before, making huge profits. We need to look in to see what their tax structure is to make sure it's the same as all the retail stores. I mentioned this before. We want to make sure these retail stores open up again. Make sure that they're going to be profitable. Make sure that's going to create a lot of jobs. Right now, you see these Sprint trucks running all over the place doing drop shipping. I'm very, very concerned about that. Those are the people, those are the companies that we need to go and look into and make sure they're paying their fair share. Listen to me, I have no problem with people making profits, but we got to make sure that we're protecting our brick and mortar, our mom and pop shops that, in other words, are suffering right now. But you know, Hop Hog Industrial Park, I'm going to talk about a park that is the largest industrial park that's right now in all of the country, one of the largest. That is ready to blossom. I worked very, very hard to make sure we have the infrastructure put in place that we could now go up second stories, that we could have manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, good paying jobs, and make sure that we bring in, keep first of all, our young, our middle-aged, and our seniors here. Good paying jobs that can be self-sufficient, self-reliant, not relying on other countries right now, especially what happened with the PPE equipment, that we had to sit there and wait for China. No, we need to make sure we're manufacturing here. That will make sure that'll create jobs. That will bring in tax revenue. That's what we need to do. We have to make sure we have jobs here for everybody and make sure we keep our young, our middle-aged, and our seniors here so we do not lose them.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis, any further comment?
Sure. I just wanted to add to my last statement. When it comes to legalization of marijuana, personally, I'm not for it. I think as a trooper, I've seen a lot of damage that it's caused. But like alcohol, I understand that the community and some people think there are benefits to it. There definitely are health benefits because we do have a medical marijuana program here in New York. So, you know, we'd have to take a look at it. And like I said, as long as it's done correctly, we've had the opportunity to look at other states and see how they've run their program.
And it's a disaster.
Mario, please.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Mattera.
I didn't mean that. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
All right, Mr. Siderakis, did you want to finish that sentence? You got cut
Sure.
off.
I think we have the advantage of looking, and I've read the legislation proposed for legalizing adult use marijuana, and there are ways to ensure that it's done properly. But the funding, we have to ensure that if it is done, we leave a lot of the control up to the counties who decides they want to sell marijuana within the county and collect a portion of that tax revenue. And it should be done at the local level and not statewide for every county.
Thank you.
Now,
Mr. Mattera, your turn.
Yes, you know what, the bail reform. Did you ever look at right now, the bail reform and the people that do not have to pay bail when they get arrested? Drug
Excuse
dealers
me,
selling crack and heroin.
Mr. Mattera, is this relating to the
Well,
tax?
again, I'm talking about the marijuana. I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
but you
but
do
we
have,
just
I'll
so
let
you
you
know, we
finish.
have
I'll
that-
let
what
you
that's gonna
finish.
do-
I'll let you finish your thought. But again, just because someone makes reference to a revenue source on a revenue bill, we're not
but-
debating the small print. But
No, I
please,
just feel
you have
again,
up to a minute. Yes.
that, again, I just feel if you do look at the bail reform, you're gonna see the list of crimes that people could go, drug dealers selling crack and heroin. So I put that right with marijuana. What about in construction? Construction workers right now going and smoking marijuana in the morning and lunchtime, and they're going to be working with power tools. Listen to me, pro-medical, different story. You know what? That's a different story. But to go in there for revenue, that is a poor example of poor government that I will never be for that, and I will fight that. Again, I will fight that right to the max.
Can I just add to that quickly?
No, we're done.
Now, wait a minute, gentlemen. That was an example of an exchange that really didn't educate our voters on the question that was asked. I just want to encourage you. There are things that are subsidiary clauses, and then there are the big issues. In your wrap up, if you feel strongly about something, that's your 2 minutes. So make yourself a note and you can come back to it. But we want to get through. We still have 4 or 5 questions we'd like to cover. So, Mr. Mattera, you do start with the next question. Increasingly, women are dropping out of the workforce because of lack of childcare and the cost of childcare. How would you propose to increase accessibility to quality early childhood education or childcare, and to increase salaries for early childhood educators?
Wow, that's a question.
It's an important one.
Sitting on Suffolk County Water Authority Board, we made sure, especially with COVID-19, that we did have home work, that people could work at home, and it's been working. And we made sure that, as a board, we wanted to make sure that we protected our employees. And I was very, very proud of that, because unprecedented time right now, and people, especially with Smithtown schools, 2 days and 3 days, the parents have to be home with their children, especially the younger children. So I will definitely help for the future. Especially, I'm just hoping we get back on track. I'm hoping that we're going to be moving forward and people going back to work. But again, when we have unprecedented times like this, we need to make sure that we protect our workforce. We need to protect both parents with situations like this, and make sure that they can work from home. And then hopefully when things get better, they could go back to work and go back to their jobs. I want people to go back to work. But again, when we have unprecedented times like this with COVID, I was with Suffolk County Water Authority to make sure that we protected all of our employees with Suffolk County Water Authority, so they could make sure they were comfortable and they were receiving a paycheck and they were doing their job.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis?
That's a fantastic question. And there are definitely inequities in our workforce that do punish women. As far as I know, women are the only ones who can bear children. And I've actually fought for this while being a member of the union for our female troopers. Women just for the mere fact that they're pregnant, sometimes have to use their sick leave and don't have any type of family leave or separate leave when they do become pregnant, or if they have a situation where there's a medical need that they need to stay home, they have to decide whether they're going to return to work early and leave their child at home with somebody that may not be able to give them the care they need, or just stay home, burn through their leave, and at some point go to half pay. So, you know, we shouldn't punish women for the mere fact that they're the child bearers, and the husbands or spouses are able to continue working without any repercussion. So I also believe that, you know, early childhood programs are needed. We need universal pre-K for everybody. So if a mother does give birth, they have access to pre-K, state-funded pre-K, where they can trust to leave their child while they go out and earn a living.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mattera, did you want to add anything on that?
Again, when I'm senator, I will make sure that we're going to protect workers, especially women workers. My wife's out in the workforce, and I know what she does, and I know how hard they work. Every woman, especially with Suffolk County Water Authority. Again, I know what we've done. We made sure that the moms were home with their children, and they were working, especially with this COVID, with this unprecedented times of COVID-19. So again, I'm aware of it, and I will always protect the women in the workforce.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis, anything else?
That's good. I'm good.
Okay, but you get the next question. And that is, as a New York State Senator, are you willing to oppose fossil fuel interests and move the state in the direction of sustainable energy and a green economy? And if so, how would you do that?
I'm a true and firm believer that we do need to protect our environment. I think that at some point we're going to move to be a society free of any fossil fuels. I know there have been talks about having the New York State Pension Fund divest from fossil fuel companies. I think that's a terrible idea to implement our movement away from fossil fuels. I think we shouldn't take, you know, the green technologies will get there at some point. I think we just have to, as a government, give the financial incentives, you know, and tax credits to allow some of these businesses that are in a disadvantage when it comes to price to many of these energy sources, and encourage development, new technologies, and eventually become cheaper over time, and will at some point replace like solar, wind energy, water. We need to make, you know, have companies, give them incentives to, you know, increase the technology. But when it comes to legislating and, you know, forcing the pension fund, which I've been through as a union leader up in Albany, and that was discussed numerous times, I don't think we should force pensions to do that, because you're talking about people's livelihood there. And at some point, green energy stocks will be in favor, and we can slowly shift to that. But I don't believe that's the answer.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mattera, same question?
Yes, I am for renewable energy, for green energy, but I am for natural gas. Right now, we have a 10-year window before everything is perfected, make sure that we generate enough kilowatts that's going to help us here on Long Island. But again, there's a 10-year window before, people talk about geothermal. There's hydrogen power that's going to be coming out. We need to make sure this is engineered and perfected properly. Hydrogen is going to be the wave of the future. You're going to be hearing about it more and more, and that's going to be green. But again, right now, natural gas, I feel, is the cleanest burning fuel. We actually reclaim the exhaust also to natural gas. Yes, oil's old, coal, forget it. But I'm talking about natural gas. I feel we have a 10-year window. We need to make sure that we have enough supply. I was for the Nestle pipeline that was coming here. They actually stopped that Nestle pipeline that was coming here, the Williamsburg. But I am definitely for renewable energy, green energy, wind with the solar, but hydrogen will be, you'll be hearing about it more. It's going to be the wave of our future. And I will make sure that I will be in the forefront to promote green energy.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis, anything else?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that, you know, here in Suffolk County, we have one of the best state universities here, SUNY Stony Brook, a fantastic science program. I think we have to ensure that our new generation going into college start looking into jobs where clean energy is pushed in the curriculum, and you know, more science jobs. Because if you look at computers, you know, where we've come over the last 20 or 30 years, I mean, people would never have believed the advancements that we've made in either power saving, the size of the computers. So I truly believe that renewable energy can be very, very competitive and even lower cost than fossil fuel energy. So I think we need to invest in our education system and ensure that we have the workforce to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Mattera, anything else?
Yes, one thing that I'm very proud of, sitting on one of the board members of Suffolk County Water Authority, is to protect our environment. So I am always going to be a supporter of protecting our environment, to make sure that we have the state-of-the-art sewage treatment plants, that I work with all county legislators over in Hauppauge, the state-of-the-art sewage treatment plant in Riverhead, to make sure moving forward. That's what I'm going to be doing with renewable energies, and make sure there's going to be good paying construction jobs with the building trades, with our prevailing wages, and to protect our prevailing wages, so people could make a decent salary, a decent wage, a decent health care, and a decent pension. So that's one thing that I will be working on for our future, and making sure our environment is protected at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Next question stays with you, Mr. Mattera. Nearly 50,000 children on Long Island are newly living in or near poverty because of job losses related to the pandemic, and need support for housing, food, health insurance, and remote learning. How would you address this escalating child poverty?
You know, this is like I said, I'm president at the times. When we look back from February, moving back, we had unemployment rate that was the lowest. And obviously what happened with COVID-19, we really got ourselves in a situation that, you know, we just got educated, everybody, on this. Again, we need to, as a state, we need to make sure that we're here to protect our residents of New York. And the only way we're going to protect them, residents from New York, is jobs. Job creation. And that's one thing that I have done. I've organized, and I've proven, I've organized the unorganized to make sure that they got into an apprenticeship program. And that's what I'll do and educate our young youth, and make sure that they get into the construction field. That right now, all our parents, they want the children, they want everybody to go away to college and like that. Let's get them into a trade. To get into a trade. This is what's happening right now, where you can see we have construction, where construction helps the economy. Without construction, the economy fails. So one thing I'll work on is to make sure that we educate for jobs. And one thing is to make sure you have education in the construction field. There's nothing wrong getting your hands dirty and going to work and going and learning the proper trade. Being a plumber, electrician, steam fitter, any one of these trades, a bricklayer, carpenter, these are all great paying jobs. I know we have over 60,000 construction workers that are on Long Island. And you know what? We can have 60,000 more. So one thing, educating is going to be key. We need to make sure we're there for our children to be educated, so we can have jobs for them for the future.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis?
Sure. During every recession we've been through, the way we get out of it is building our infrastructure. We do have to look at creating new jobs for people, but we also have to look at education. You know, we got to get children out of the cycle of poverty. And the way to do that is to have equal access to education, especially food. You have a lot of families who struggle to eat every single day. And we've had a huge strain with COVID-19 on many of the food banks and charities that have been there to help out in those times of need. So I think at this point, we need the state and federal government to really step up and make sure that these families don't worry about where their next meal is going to come from, and that we assist as much as possible. And as far as education, we have to make sure transportation to and from school, pre-K is available for children. We know that the earlier children start school, the better they are, and at the end, when they graduate. So, you know, the earlier we can get children into school, I think will benefit all of us in the society. But, you know, there's not going to be a one solution that's going to fix the issue of poverty. We really need to be more of a compassionate nation and, you know, stop blaming everybody for, you know, the position they're in, but try to help people get out of that situation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mattera, anything to add on that?
Again, education is key, and we need to make sure that we have, especially when unprecedented times, that we have a fund that's spread, just like with us. We have a Sandy Relief Fund with Plumbers Local 200 for when Sandy hit for our members, and the UA, United Association of Plumbers and Pipefitters, and we made sure that we were there for our families in need. So you know what? There should be some kind of a fund that's going to be there, especially with these unprecedented times with the state. Again, we need to be there. I will always be there as state senator to make sure people will have food on their table.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siderakis?
No.
No, okay. All right, here's the last question. We saved the best one for last.
Oh.
And after that, you'll do the close. You're each running for a New York State Senate seat that John Flanagan occupied since 2003. What is one thing he advocated for that you would continue, and or what one thing would you work hard to change?
Is it my turn first?
No, it's Mr. Siderakis.
Oh, it's Mike.
Are you ready with your answer, Mr. Mattera?
Mike's first. Yes, I am, but go ahead.
All right. Mike, do you want him to go first?
No, Mike's next. That's how it works.
Okay. Mr. Siderakis, your answer, please.
Sure. I know Senator Flanagan, you know, worked hard to make sure we got our education funding here on Long Island. I would definitely look to increase and make sure that we have, like I said, state level funding, you know, not taxpayer funded education here. Our taxes are way too high here on Long Island. My taxes have almost quadrupled in the 25 years I've been here. And we need to ensure that the state does pay their fair share towards education and not rely so much on homeowners to do that through property taxes. What I would be a little more involved in, I've spoken, I don't know if you know Linda Beagle-Schulman, but she's a fantastic gun safety advocate. Being former law enforcement, I'm absolutely pro Second Amendment. I own a gun. I own a gun safely. And I think we really need to ensure that people who shouldn't have guns don't have access to them. And we have to ensure that we're more aggressive in creating legislation that stops the manufacture, especially as technology improves with ghost guns, people being able to manufacture 80% of the guns and buy them online and do a few little modifications and turn them into operational firearms. So I think we really need to do a little more, not a little more, but quite a bit more focus on gun safety legislation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mattera.
One thing I want to do is I want to commend Senator Flanagan for 33 years of service. I mean, 33 years. And I know, Senator Flanagan put his heart and soul into the job. And I'm very, very honored and privileged that he endorsed me for the second Senate seat. But one thing that Senator Flanagan did, he was a good listener. When I sit on St. James Civic and brought to his attention what was happening with Lake Avenue. We have $10 million worth of work going on Lake Avenue right now that Smithtown has never, ever seen. And I can't even tell you in how many years. 1958 was the last time that Lake Avenue had any kind of infrastructure. I sat down with Senator Flanagan and explained to him how important it was, and Supervisor Wareheim of Smithtown, that the water main was asbestos lined, it was deteriorating, it was inferior piping, and we made sure we got $2.4 million for the infrastructure for the water main, then another $3.9 million for a dry sewer that either could go north or south. And when I'm Senator, I'm going to make sure there's going to be a state-of-the-art sewage treatment plant that will handle Main Street, Smithtown, Jericho Corridor, Wisconsin Hamlet, St. James Hamlet, Jarrett and 25A, to make sure we're protecting our environment for the future, that we can make sure we can have a beautiful, vibrant, like a Babylon village on Lake Avenue, to have a beautiful little hamlet, a walking hamlet, that we could go and have the streets and avenues on the east to go from their homes and walk to a beautiful hamlet, and the President streets. One thing Senator Flanagan did was he listened, and we made sure that we received the money. So again, you can sit there and say, what hasn't he done right? I'm going to tell you something. He was a great listener. I am more for the public schools. The charter schools are something that I am, and not saying that they should be funded in certain ways, but the public schools need to be funded in my eyes. But otherwise, the man has done 33 years of being a public servant, and I commend him for that. But again, I made sure with the infrastructure was put in place to be done properly for the future for Smithtown. $20 million for Kings Park. Another $20 million for Smithtown.
Thank you.
We've got the alienation bill. So you know what? A lot has been done.
Okay, Mr. Mattera, thank you. Mr. Siderakis.
You almost got it right.
So, anything
to the next debate, we'll have it right.
Yeah, we won't go there, but sorry. An extra syllable I keep leaving off. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Sure.
I'm not expecting more, but if you'd like.
Sure. I'd like to add that, I don't know every piece of legislation Senator Flanagan did, but I can tell you this year, when he decided to resign in June and take a public sector job, a lobbying job, he did leave this district without any representation during one of the most difficult times in our history during the COVID-19 crisis. So whoever's elected after the November 3rd election is going to have to take office immediately. We're not starting in January since it's an open seat. But as far as listening, I've had different experience, you would say, with Senator Flanagan. When I was the legislative director with the Troopers PBA, I've sat down when the Republican majority was in the Senate to come up with changes to the Taylor law in New York that, the Janus decision took away the fair share fees that were required under the New York State Taylor law. And the Janus decision said there were no more fair share fees. So we had to work on changing the law to reflect the people don't get benefits if they're not going to be paying full benefits as they were in the past with the Taylor law. So he was a little bit of a roadblock. My experience is I've had a lot more support from the Democrats with union issues. And, I got a lot further with the majority leader, at the time, minority leader, Andres Stewart-Cousins.
Okay, thank you.
Uh,
Mr.
And
Mattera, would you like to add something?
yes, one thing I got to say with the Nassau Suffolk Building Trades, Senator Flanagan has always been there, open door policy, called you back. One thing that he has is a staff that is impeccable. Um, Again, they're very educated. They've been with Senator Flanagan a long time. His chief of staff is still there, and all staffers are still there. No one has left that office. And just so you know, you do not start this job till January 1st, when you're inauguration. You do not start it on November 4th. So I don't know where Mr. Siderakis is getting that information from. But again, I will be starting when I'm senator right away, working with the staff, an amazing staff that's over there in Senator Flanagan's office.
Okay, thank you. We now have 2 minutes for each of you for a close. That's your time. You can go back to any of the topics. You can use a prepared statement, whatever you'd like. Mr. Siderakis, if you would do your close, please.
Sure. Like I said, I've dedicated my life to public service. I think there's no more noble occupation than serving the public. Our first responders, firefighters, nurses, people who take a job just to help others. And I've done that for, like I said, nearly 3 decades with the New York State Police as a New York State trooper. And I want to continue my public service to the constituents of District 2. I have the background, I have the experience, I have the integrity, and I have the honor to serve them well in Albany.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mattera, your closing statement, please.
Yes, first of all, I want to thank you guys for hosting this, Lisa and Linda. You guys have done an amazing job with this. One thing I'm going to say is our families first. I'm much of a family man that cares about the future of my family and my daughters and all my constituents when I become senator. I've done it, proven what I've done sitting on all these boards. People come to me because they know I get the job done. I am a no frills type of person. You get the good, the bad, the ugly from Mario Mattera, because you know why? I am consistent and persistent. And when you're consistent and persistent, you make sure people get your ear. And that's one thing I've done. Sitting on Suffolk County Water Authority for the last 6 years, we had to make some serious changes, especially with our infrastructure. Infrastructure is key with me. We right now, with the 1,4-dioxane situation and the PFOSs and the PFOAs, we got to make sure that that we are having the proper apparatus with our ALP system. It's $1.5 million per unit. We have 48. It's close to all of them. That's all together. We have like $200 million worth of work that's going to be coming up to make sure that we protect our precious water supply. And I was there part of that. Sitting on St. James Civic, very important to make sure that our monies, our taxpayers' monies are spent properly, to make sure that we're going to have a vibrant hamlet. To sit on all the boards like Suffolk County Consumers Affairs, to make sure our consumers were protected. That's where I've been. Experience. To go with all the legislators and all elected officials, to sit down to educate them about the building trades and about the workers protection. I've been there, been with all our legislators the last close to 20 years as me being the business agent. So, you know, getting the backing from Supervisor Wareheim and all of the council people to sit on an advisory board. I'm very proud of that. It's a privilege when people come to you to sit on St. Catherine's advisory board for the future, to make sure $100 million emergency road was put in.
Okay.
And I made sure I raised the money.
Thank you, Mr. Mattera. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
And Mr. Siderakis and Mr. Mattera, on behalf of Linda with the League of Women Voters of Brookhaven, myself for the League of Women Voters of Smithtown, we do want to commend you both for your public service in your careers, as well as your desire to serve the voters and all residents in the 2nd Senate District. And we hope the rest of your campaigns go smoothly and that people are using their absentee ballots, going to early voting, going on election day, And good luck to both of you. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you so
Thank you. You
much.
guys did a great job. Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.